Scarface was born in the vast, untamed savannas of Kenya, where life was a constant battle for survival. In the heart of the Maasai Mara Reserve, he grew up surrounded by his siblings and the protective presence of his mother. The golden grasses stretched endlessly under a sun that rarely showed mercy, and the nights were alive with the roars of rival lions and the distant howls of hyenas. Scarface, like every cub, spent his early days learning to navigate this dangerous world, often tumbling playfully with his siblings and observing the powerful lions who ruled the pride. His father, a dominant male, embodied strength and resilience, traits that Scarface would one day need. But as a cub, he was just another young lion, shielded from the savannah's harsh realities by the safety of the pride. Food was shared, and danger was kept at bay by the vigilant adults. Yet even in this relative security, Scarface couldn't ignore the unspoken law of the savannah. Power belonged to the strongest. The days of his peaceful cubhood were fleeting. As he grew, so did his awareness of the looming challenges. He watched as older males were driven away from the pride to make room for new blood. He knew his time would come, and the life he had always known would be left behind. The savannah didn't allow complacency, and the cub who once wrestled with his brothers in the grass would soon have to fight for his survival in a world where only the boldest thrived. As Scarface grew stronger, the time came when he could no longer remain in the safety of his birth pride. The day he had always sensed was inevitable arrived. He and his brothers were forced to leave, cast out by the dominant males who sought to protect their own reign. Scarface now faced the vast savannah, an endless stretch of opportunities and dangers. This was the moment when his real journey began. Joining him were three other young males, Hunter, Morani, and Sitio. Each had been expelled from their respective prides, and together they formed a bond forged by necessity. They were united by a common goal, to survive and eventually create a kingdom of their own. The savannah was merciless, and without their alliance they would be vulnerable to rival lions, starvation, or worse. Their days were filled with wandering, learning the rhythms of the wild, and avoiding confrontations with stronger established prides. Scarface felt a deep sense of urgency. The savannah demanded more than courage. It required strategy, cunning, and unity. The journey ahead was daunting, but the call to carve out their own destiny was irresistible. Scarface, alongside his newfound brothers, took his first steps into a world where only the boldest and most determined could hope to thrive. The savannah was vast and unforgiving, and doubts crept into the minds of the four young lions. Scarface, though strong and determined, could not ignore the dangers that surrounded them. Every roar in the distance reminded them of the dominant males who would fiercely defend their territories. The thought of challenging them seemed like a death sentence. Hello guys. If you like our stories and haven't subscribed yet, support our work and subscribe to the channel to help us. Scarface and his companions often hesitated, unsure if they were ready to face such formidable rivals. They were inexperienced, their bodies still carrying the remnants of youth rather than the hardened strength of seasoned warriors. Hunger gnawed at them, and the temptation to retreat to the safety of their former lives was strong. For a moment, fear overshadowed ambition, and the possibility of failure loomed large, threatening to paralyze them before their journey had truly begun. Scarface and his companions found their mentor not in a single figure, but in the unbreakable bond they formed with one another. Together they discovered that their strength did not lie solely in individual prowess, but in their unity as a group. Hunter, the most agile among them, taught them the importance of precision during a hunt. Morani, with his calm demeanor, kept the group focused when tensions arose. Sitio, known for his resilience, inspired the others to persevere through exhaustion and hunger. Scarface, however, emerged as their emotional anchor, his determination sparking courage in the group during their darkest moments. Their battles with smaller threats, lone hyenas, scavengers, and youthful rival lions, became lessons. Each encounter tested their coordination and forced them to trust one another. The savannah itself became their harsh teacher, exposing them to the unrelenting cycle of life and death. Scarface began to understand that their survival depended on their ability to function as one. The scars they earned along the way were marks of their growth and determination. Through these shared experiences, the four young lions transformed from uncertain wanderers into a formidable coalition. The bond they shared would become their greatest strength, propelling them forward into the challenges that awaited in the heart of the savannah. The turning point came when Scarface and his coalition of 3 companions faced their first true challenge, taking over a pride dominated by an experienced male. They had roamed the savannah for months, honing their skills and growing stronger. But this was their moment to prove they were more than just wanderers. The pride they targeted was guarded by a fierce, seasoned lion, supported by several lionesses. Scarface and his companions knew they were outmatched in experience, yet desperation for territory drove them forward. The morning of the attack, the 4 young males observed the pride from a distance. They noticed the lionesses moving away to hunt, leaving the dominant male and 2 older lionesses behind. It was the opportunity they needed. Scarface and his brothers moved in, their instincts sharpened by hunger and ambition. The confrontation was brutal. The dominant male fought ferociously, using his strength and experience to hold his ground. However, he was no match for the relentless coordination of the 4 younger lions. Scarface, driven by determination, positioned himself at the forefront of the attack, enduring blows that would have deterred a lesser lion. After a long, grueling battle, they emerged victorious. The lionesses, upon returning, recognized the change in leadership and submitted to the new rulers to protect their cubs. Though Scarface and his coalition were wounded and exhausted, they had claimed their first territory. It was a hard-fought victory, one that solidified their bond and marked the beginning of their reign. Scarface's journey from a cautious youth to a bold leader had officially begun, and the savannah now whispered his name. With their first territory secured, Scarface and his coalition began to establish themselves as a formidable force in the savannah. However, victory was only the beginning. The savannah was an unrelenting battlefield where every day brought new challenges. Their first priority was defending their newly claimed pride from rival males, scavengers, and other threats. Scarface quickly learned that conquering a territory was one thing, but holding it was an entirely different challenge. The coalition faced their first test of endurance when a group of hyenas attempted to steal a fresh kill from the lionesses. Scarface and his brothers intervened, driving the hyenas away in a fierce skirmish. Though the encounter left them battered, it reinforced their unity. These battles were more than survival. They were lessons, shaping them into skilled defenders and teaching them the value of collaboration. Scarface's instinct to protect and lead began to shine, earning the respect of his companions and the lionesses under their care. The savannah also brought unexpected allies. Birds of prey often circled above, signaling the presence of nearby food or danger. Observing the movements of elephants and other animals, Scarface and his coalition learned to predict the behavior of the ecosystem around them, using it to their advantage. Every alliance with nature was a step toward mastery of their environment. But the enemies were relentless. Rival coalitions began testing their strength, seeking to reclaim what Scarface and his brothers had taken. One particularly brutal encounter with a pair of older males left them with deep wounds, but their combined strength forced the rivals to retreat. It was during this battle that Scarface received the blow that would forever mark him, the deep scar over his eye, which earned him his iconic name. As their fame grew, so did the whispers of their dominance. Tourists and researchers began to notice the unique bond of the 4 musketeers, especially the commanding presence of Scarface. His courage in battles, his ability to quell tensions within the coalition, and his growing reputation as a leader cemented his status as the face of their reign. Through countless trials, Scarface and his coalition rose above the savannah's challenges. Every scar on their bodies was a testament to their strength, and every victory brought them closer to the legendary status they would one day achieve. As the years passed, Scarface and his coalition grew older. Their dominance across the savannah was undeniable, but the first signs of their decline began to emerge. the once seemingly invincible musketeers started to feel the toll of countless battles and the relentless march of time. Their bodies, once agile and unyielding, now bore the weight of age and the scars of their past. The coalition began to face challenges, not just from rivals but from within. Hunter, the fastest and most agile of the group, was the first to slow down. His movements grew sluggish, and he avoided unnecessary confrontations. Scarface, too, began to sense his limitations. Though his spirit remained fierce, his aging body struggled to match the strength of younger challengers. The savannah, ever merciless, presented new coalitions of young, powerful males eager to claim their legacy. For the first time, Scarface and his brothers avoided battles they knew they could not win. Instead, they focused on safeguarding their remaining territory and avoiding unnecessary risks. The coalition's bond remained strong, but a quiet understanding settled among them. They could not escape the inevitability of decline. Scarface began to sense that their reign was nearing its end, and the shadow of mortality loomed over the once mighty musketeers. The inevitable decline of the four musketeers began to accelerate as time claimed their strength. In 2019, the first blow came when Hunter, once the swiftest and most agile among them, succumbed to old age. He had quietly withdrawn from the group, in his final days, seeking solitude as many lions do when the end is near. His absence left a void in the coalition, a stark reminder of the fragility of even the strongest bonds. The following year, CTO faced his own demise. Ever resilient, he had attempted to defend their territory alone against a young, powerful male. The fight was brutal, and while CTO's bravery was unquestionable, his aging body could not withstand the ferocity of his opponent. Scarface and Marani, now the last two musketeers, were left to face the savannah's challenges together. They avoided unnecessary confrontations, knowing their time as dominant forces had passed. As younger, coalitions encroached upon their lands. The duo watched as their once vast kingdom was gradually overtaken. The new males, sensing their weakened state, didn't even bother to challenge them directly. They claimed the lionesses and territory without a fight, leaving Scarface and Marani to exist on the periphery. Scarface, deeply affected by the losses of Hunter and CTO, began to withdraw further. The weight of his age, his scars, and the memories of their reign bore down on him. Despite his diminished strength, his presence still commanded respect, but the days of glory were now memories. Scarface, once a symbol of power and unity, faced the savannah alone, carrying the legacy of the four musketeers in his fading steps. Though Scarface's reign as a dominant force had ended, his legacy endured. The pride he and his coalition once ruled was now home to a new generation of lions, many of whom carried their bloodline. These descendants bore the strength and resilience inherited from the musketeers, ensuring their mark on the savannah would live on. Scarface himself had become more than just a lion. He was a symbol. His iconic scar and commanding presence had drawn researchers, photographers, and tourists from around the world to the Masai Mara. He became the most photographed lion in Africa, his image immortalized as a representation of the wild's raw beauty and power. Through him, awareness of the struggles and triumphs of the savannah's wildlife reached countless people, fostering a deeper appreciation for conservation efforts. Despite his declining physical state, Scarface's influence remained. Even in his later years, he roamed the edges of his former kingdom with quiet dignity, his very existence a testament to survival against all odds. His reward was not in the territories he once held, but in the legacy he left behind. A story of strength, unity, and perseverance that would inspire those who followed and remind the world of the majesty of the wild. In his final years, Scarface retreated into the quiet corners of the savannah, no longer the powerful ruler he once was. The battles and victories of his youth were behind him, replaced by solitary days spent under the shade of acacia trees. He watched as younger lions claimed what he and his brothers had fought so hard to build. Yet there was no bitterness in his retreat, only acceptance. The Masai Mara's rangers and researchers monitored his movements closely, understanding that they were witnessing the twilight of a legend. Scarface's presence continued to draw admiration, even as his body bore the weight of age and countless scars. Though the savannah was no longer his to command, he carried with him the dignity of a lion who had lived fully, leaving behind an enduring legacy. On June 11, 2021, Scarface took his final breath under the golden sun of the Masai Mara, marking the end of an era. The once mighty ruler of the savannah, whose life had captivated millions, now lay still. His passing was not a moment of defeat, but a culmination of an extraordinary journey. A life lived to its fullest, defined by courage, unity, and resilience. As news of his death spread, tributes poured in from around the world. Conservationists, photographers, and wildlife enthusiasts shared stories and images of the lion, who had come to symbolize the wild's raw and untamed spirit. Scarface's iconic scar, a badge of his countless battles, became a symbol of perseverance and survival. He was not merely a lion, he was a legend whose life had transcended the boundaries of the savannah. Even in death, Scarface's legacy lived on. His bloodline continued through the prides he had ruled, ensuring his influence remained woven into the fabric of the Masai Mara. His story inspired greater awareness of the challenges faced by lions and the importance of protecting their habitats. Scarface became an ambassador for his species, a reminder of the delicate balance between nature's power and its vulnerability. In his absence, the savannah seemed quieter, yet his presence lingered in every roar of the lions he left behind. Scarface had risen beyond the life of a single lion to become a symbol of the enduring strength of the wild. His story continues to inspire, proving that true immortality lies not in a body, but in the impact of a life well lived. Scarface's story did not end with his death. His legacy, the elixir of his journey, became a symbol of resilience and strength, inspiring those who heard it. His life was more than a testament to survival. It was a narrative of leadership, unity, and the balance of nature. Through his scars, his victories, and his quiet decline, Scarface embodied the struggles and triumphs of the wild. The Masai Mara Reserve, where he spent his life, became a place of pilgrimage for those who sought to understand the savannah and its challenges. Tourists, conservationists, and filmmakers used his story to spotlight the delicate ecosystem and the importance of protecting lions and their habitats. Scarface's fame extended beyond Africa, making him an icon in the fight for wildlife preservation. His bloodline carried his strength into the next generation, his descendants roaming the lands he once ruled. The cubs born to his prides were a living legacy, a continuation of his story. But more than his lineage, it was the memory of his life that left the greatest impact. Scarface reminded the world that the beauty of the wild lies in its rawness, its unpredictability, and its endurance. In the end, Scarface's journey was one of transformation, not just for himself, but for all who followed his story. He returned to the earth, but his influence remained, a reminder of the power of nature and the responsibility of humanity to protect it. Scarface had become eternal, a legend written in the heart of the savannah. Hello guys, if you like our stories and haven't subscribed yet, support our work and subscribe to the channel to help us.